thanks, Carissa. So hi everybody, I'm Silvia. We'll be covering Germany today. As Carissa said, it is a personal favorite of mine, so I'll try to share all the things I love, the places that I think work very well for our clients, and how to do it best. It is a little bit, it's going to be a little bit lengthy. There's a lot to cover. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. And even though I'll try to cover as much as possible as well, there will be some areas that we won't have time to really touch. So if there is anything you're missing or anything you have questions about, happy to help. You can reach out to me later with questions here on the chat or via email, on the phone. I'll be happy to help. Okay, let's begin. I'm going to first show you a map of Germany if it loads. There we go. Okay. So as most of you know, Germany is located in a very strategic position within Europe. So it's pretty much, the perfect place to get anywhere. And what we will be covering today, it's going to be mostly the main cities you all know and some other countryside areas. For example, I'll start with Munich and the whole Bavaria region, which is in the southeast. Then we're going to also cover the Romantic Road, which goes here. I don't know if you see my mouse. Romantic Road is this area here. Then we'll also cover the Black Forest here, the area around Frankfurt, Heidelberg, Stuttgart, and then we will move on to Berlin, and then we'll finish with Hamburg. So as I said, there will be a lot of areas that I'm not covering, but it makes the most sense to just focus on what our clients really want to visit. It ends up being pretty much the southern part, the bottom of Germany, and then just the big cities in the north. Okay, so beginning with Munich. Munich is the capital of Bavaria. It's actually the third largest city in Germany. And it is what, let's say, it is the German image we all have in our heads. So it is the more traditional part of the country. It is the cultural idea of, the Lederhosen, the Alpine, the pretzels, the beer. So this is what, Bavaria represents. And it is a great region. There's so much to do for all sorts of people. It is actually great for outdoors, family, independent travelers, art. So there's something for everyone. It is also great because Munich is a large hub within Europe. So a lot of the flights from the US get there. So it's a great starting point. And from there, just move to other places. Within the city of Munich, there's actually quite a lot to see. And there's also an array of different day trips from the city. So I would say probably anything between 3 and 5 days will be great to spend. In the city, for first-time visitors, we try to cover in a half-day tour the main sites, for example, the Marienplatz, which is the main square in the city where the town hall here is located. The Viktualienmarkt is an open-air farmers market, and we can arrange a tasting there. It's really fun also for families because there are different stands with regional cheese and cured meats, and then there's also stands with different candies and smoothies. So it is fun to do. It's right in the old town as well, so very convenient. And then there are also, I know more and more, the culinary phase of the cities is kind of, they are making really a true effort in putting that forward. And there are a lot of fun things we can arrange for families or groups of friends or just couples, like pretzel making classes. There are also cocktail and bar tours, cooking classes. So there's plenty to do. And then also something fun for families. It's the Olympic Park, which is a little bit outside of the city, but they have a few cool things to do, like zip lining and walking on the rooftop of the stadium. That was actually, the Olympic Park is a massive urban park, and it was also when it held actually the Olympic Games in '72. So that also has the historical phase. And then very popular in Munich, I know a lot of people ask for it, is the a visit to the BMW headquarters. So this is called the BMW Welt, which means world, and it is a complex, has an exhibition, a massive exhibition of all the years of history. There's interactive, there's merchandise area, and there's also the factory. There's a possibility to arrange tours to a factory. It's just a little bit tricky because it has to be done in advance, sometimes even months. So if you have clients really interested on that, the sooner they plan it, the better, just for the factory, the BMW factory. And then another favorite of mine in Munich, another site, is the Bavaria Opera. It's actually not very well known, unfortunately, but it is a historical building. It was actually the favorite place in Munich for Ludwig II, where he would just go on his own and then watch all these operas just for him. So it's really fun to have a local specialist, a person that actually works there, takes you through the opera. It is a private tour. You get to actually chat with musicians or ballerinas if they are rehearsing, and it's pretty much, you know, all for yourself. So it is a really cool activity to do in Munich. I wanted to quickly cover the Oktoberfest. I mean, we'll see how things go next year and the following years, but it is useful to know a little bit how it works. So the Oktoberfest itself takes place in a fairground area near the city center. It's actually relatively close, and it is accessible for everybody. So there is an area with Ferris wheel stands, you know, with games and sort of like roller coasters kind of thing, and all of that is accessible free of charge. So what becomes an issue is getting access to the tents, which has to be booked and reserved months and months and months in advance. So for example, this picture here, this is, I wanted to show you, I mean, considering the situation, who knows how this will look, but this is the standard tent from one of the large breweries. For example, Hofbräuhaus or Paulaner, they all have these massive tents. And the ones we work with are nothing like this. I just want to make sure that this is what someone will see if they go to one of these massive large ones. How we do it is we have arrangements with the hotels we work with, and most of the five-star hotels in the city have their own tents, or they have some sections of the tent for their clients. So they just secure them, they are always booked for them, and then they provide them to the clients. So these tents have several tables. The tables are 8 people, and no matter how many clients you have, 2, 5, or 8, they have to book the whole table. So obviously for fewer people will be much more expensive. So that's why it's it would be good to consider maybe if you have a group of friends or a family, because it will just make more sense. And then there are 2 shifts that can be booked, either lunch or dinner. So lunch, it tends to be a little bit quieter. At dinner, it gets a little bit rowdy. So it's, I mean, it's fun for everybody. Anyway, it's just a matter of choice. And then the meal is included. So usually it's a 3-course meal, and it includes also a liter of beer per person. And we can also arrange the rental of Lederhosen and Dirndl for clients that want to get involved even more into the atmosphere. And that is dropped off at the hotel, and then it could be rented for 1 or 2 days or 3 days, and then they just leave it at the hotel and we take care of the rest. And for clients that don't want to travel during Oktoberfest but are still interested in getting a glimpse of it or getting to experience the whole beer culture, we also arrange private beer and breweries tours. There's an Oktoberfest museum, a small, really cute one in the Old Town. There are different breweries that can provide samples and tasting. There's also ways to actually make your own beer. So it doesn't really matter what time of the year clients travel. We can just make it work and create their own little Oktoberfest. Okay, so as day trips from Munich, there are a whole lot of possibilities. I'll just cover 4 of them, general. One of them will be the area around Neuschwanstein Castle. This is the famous Cinderella Castle. It's about an hour and a half south of Munich. It's right where the Alps begin. So it's located on a valley. You can see in the picture here. I mean, you get to see this beautiful countryside on the valley, and then on the back you have all the mountains, and then it's when it starts getting higher. So there are different ways to visit Neuschwanstein. Most of the time it's just joining a regular tour. The tours there are very organized. There's a slot, so you have to be there on time. They let around 30, 40 people during that slot. And then there is a castle guide that goes with them. It doesn't last really long. And just because even though it is a massive castle, it is unfinished. So the only part that it's open to the public, it's very minimal. There are just a few rooms. So that's why I know a lot of people think about this castle and it's something grandiose, and it is not really in the inside. It is nice and it's very interesting to see. And if you go all the way there, you absolutely have to. But the appeal of it, it's actually the outside. So one option is joining one of these public tours. And then the other option is if someone wants to do it private, have to buy out all those tickets. So it doesn't come cheap, but there is an option to actually have one of those tours just for your clients. Near Neuschwanstein is Oberammergau. I'm sure all of you are aware of the Passion Play being postponed until 2022. So that will again be popular then, but until then it is also a very quaint town to visit, even though, you know, it's nothing to do with the Passion Play, just as a town itself. It has this really charming alpine feeling, very, very famous for the wood carving. The houses are all painted in different colors and with frescoes. So it is a great combination with Neuschwanstein Castle as a full day trip from Munich. Another popular shorter day trip, which ends up being about 5 hours, is Dachau. This is a memorial site for the concentration camp. It is accessible either by private driver or even with with a public train. It takes you there in 40 minutes. And yeah, it is a relatively easy half day from Munich. And then another very cool thing to do with kids is heading to Tegernsee, which is one of the lakes near Munich, and experience a hot air balloon, which actually has like incredible views over, you know, all the way to Munich and also all the way to the Alps. So that's totally a must do if you have a family really wanting to do something, you know, something a little bit more different. Okay, in Bavaria, outside of Munich, obviously, but still in the same region, is the Romantic Road. This is sometimes a little bit, it's tricky. It's just the idea that a lot of people have is that you have the Romantic Road and you have to do, you know, the whole Romantic Road. It's not how it works. So this is a stretch of road going from Würzburg, more or less in the middle of the, you know, not the middle of the country, but sort of, on a straight line all the way south to Füssen, which is right on the border with Austria, where the Alps begin. So there are ways to do it, you know, as a whole, or there are ways to also select different parts of this Romantic Road. The most famous one, let's say, is Rothenburg, which is this super picturesque town in the middle of the Romantic Road. There are many of the towns like Rosenborg along the route, but I guess Rothenburg is just like the epitome of the Romantic Road. Otherwise, it's very cool to start in, for example, in Würzburg, which is a larger city. It's known for wines. It's on the Franken border, in the Franken area. It's a very famous, especially white wine area. And for example, I spend there at night. There is this property we work with, you know, on the vineyards with rolling hills. There are like biking tours to the vineyards. So it is also a cool activity to do well in Germany. And then head down through Rothenburg, Dinkelsbühl. There's another couple more little towns, and then continue all the way south to Füssen, where pretty much all the Bavarian castles are located. So we can visit Neuschwanstein, we can visit Schwangau, Hohenschwangau, which is the one at the bottom. It's right next to Neuschwanstein. Also Linderhof. So there's a whole lot of historical buildings that can be covered in that same region. So in any of these, actually, they could pretty much be done as a day trip from Munich as well. That's why it's just so convenient to stay in Munich. And I will finish with Bavaria, mentioning the hotels. There are two wonderful five-star properties I work with in Munich. One is the Rockefeller, the Charles, and the other one, the Kempinski. So the Charles is outside of the city center of the actual old town of the walls, and it is next to the botanical gardens and steps from the train station, which is super convenient, especially for clients that want to, be a little bit more independent and maybe go to Nuremberg for the day, or to Regensburg, or to Dachau, so they can actually get to do more things. And then Kempinski is in the old town, it's just bordering the old town. Steps from Marienplatz, from the market, from the opera. So, I mean, extremely well located near all the shopping area. And so either of these two hotels are just wonderful options. And then I wanted to mention, there is a family from Bavaria, the Geisel family, that owned a few properties within the city. And two of them are some of my favorite hotels as well. So one of them is Beyond, which is a really unique concept. It opened just 2-3 years ago, and it only has 19 rooms, a really boutique experience. It's located in Marienplatz, so in the true heart of Munich. And when we book the rooms, the rate, actually all the meals are included. And that's really interesting because they do have a chef 24/7, and they have these different menus depending on the time of the day. And guests can just order anything they want, as much as they want, all the drinks they want. And it is truly, it's top quality, and it's just amazing because you are in this oasis of tranquility in the middle of the hustle and bustle, and it's truly a spectacular property. And then Excelsior is the second one from this Geisel family. Excelsior is more, I would say it's more of a 4-star boutique hotel. Probably for people that don't want to spend that much money on hotels and are planning on spending a lot of time outdoors and traveling around. And they still want to have a great place to go back at the end of the day. So they really blended the alpine and the traditional and the city atmosphere in a great way. They have a wonderful wine bar on property. So it's also located right next to the train station, so perfect for those wanting to be, as I said, a little bit more on the exploration side. And yeah, so that covers the hotels in the actual city of Munich. And then I wanted to quickly mention two marvelous resorts outside of the city and more in the countryside. So the first one is the Schloss Elmau. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with them. Elmau is right outside of Garmisch-Partenkirchen, which is the ski resort of Germany, the main one. And it is a truly high and super top retreat hotel, and it is actually great for families because they offer these packages. You don't really just book the hotel, the room is just like this whole package, and they offer everything to keep kids entertained. It's just amazing. They have soccer, they have theater, they have lectures, they have all the spa, they have all sorts of activities. It's really fun. All the families I've had there, they've just loved it. And then the second one is the Kempinski Verkehrsgarten. This one is also great for people that might want to combine maybe Munich for a few nights and then just go somewhere to relax and then enjoy the nature. It's secluded. It's really on a quiet area. And it is on the border with Austria. So it's in southeast Germany and just 20 minutes from Salzburg. So it's right next to a city if someone just wants to go spend the day in Salzburg, and also has direct access to hiking areas, biking, the mountains. So it is also great located. And from Bavaria and Munich, I will move on to Western Germany. This is an area that is very interesting because it combines a lot of different things in one big area. And also interesting because Frankfurt is one of the most important hubs in Europe, has flights, everything, everywhere you can imagine, and everything is pretty much possible from Frankfurt because it has the situation in the country allows visitors to arrive in Frankfurt and head either towards Würzburg, towards a romantic road, towards a Black Forest, even going south and head to Switzerland. So there are multiple options from Frankfurt. As a city, I would say if someone has to spend the night on arrival or on departure, totally worth having a tour. It is a really interesting combination of modern and historical. And yeah, otherwise, I mean, from Frankfurt Airport, it works really well to just rent a car for self-drive guests and just go explore different areas and then use it as a starting point. So 1 hour south of Frankfurt on a pretty much straight line is Heidelberg, which is one of the most beautiful cities in Germany. It has the oldest university in the country, this magnificent castle. Totally worth spending a night, or maybe if there's no time, just on the way somewhere else to stop. It is a great charming city. And then also from Frankfurt, instead of going to Heidelberg, visitors can also go towards the Rhine and the Mosel valleys, which are these wine areas on Western Germany. The Mosel is actually one of the less known wine areas in because it's around, France is nearby, so it's kind of not as popular, but it is truly amazing. I went there last year in 2019, and I rented a car, and then I just drove through different villages. It's just like this winding road along the river, and then you have these rolling hills, beautiful towns, and then castles all over. So it's great to just go and then play by ear, stop where you want. It truly is an amazing part of the country. And then when we continue a little bit south from Heidelberg towards Baden-Württemberg, which is where the Black Forest is, we arrive in Baden-Baden. This is personally, I would say, probably my favorite place in that whole region to just stay, because it is not a huge city. It is a relatively large town, but not massive. Beautiful, massive. I mean, the architecture is just gorgeous. Lots of culture. There is also, it's famous for the thermal baths. There are spas throughout the city, and it is perfectly located, so guests can go to Heidelberg, to, for example, Stuttgart, and visit the Mercedes-Benz and the Porsche museums. It's just an hour and a half away. Even to Strasbourg on the other side of the Rhine, biking on the Rhine Valley, going hiking. There are like plenty of things to do, and the properties are great. My favorite is Brenner's Park. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's just spectacular. And that being said, Baden-Baden will be actually my preference to base clients that want to explore the Black Forest. So yeah, the Black Forest is it's something that I spend a lot of time trying to explain, because I know we all had in this head this mystical place, and it is and it's not. I mean, the Black Forest is just a natural area. It's beautiful, lots of greenery, but it doesn't, some people I know, they expect this more dramatic landscape that's more part of the southern of the the Bavarian Alps and the areas bordering Austria. This is more these soft mountains, lower elevations, more rolling hills. There are a few lakes, which it's beautiful, but it's more probably for people trying to get to see the countryside on a more relaxed way, just like getting on a car and then just driving and stop somewhere to have lunch, and then go on a on a boat ride on one of the lakes, maybe go taste the Black Forest cake somewhere. There are a lot of distilleries producing local liquors and gins, so that's also interesting. But I wouldn't say it is a place for people to just spend 3-4 days exploring the Black Forest. It's nothing like that, because unfortunately it gets old pretty quick. So I will say that with a day trip from Baden-Baden, or maybe as a stop going, for example, somewhere like Basel or even other parts of Switzerland, it works perfectly fine. And from West Germany, we head to Berlin, which is the capital of the country. Personally, is, I guess, one of my favorite cities in Europe. I lived there for a few years, so it's really dear to my heart. It is one of the most cosmopolitan, vibrant cities in the world. Architecturally, the art is amazing. The history is just fascinating. So I will say probably Berlin requires at least 5 days. I could spend months there and I wouldn't get bored. So yeah, but for first-time visitors, there are a few actually city tours that we will include. Obviously, the Brandenburger Gate is the iconic symbol of the city. In that same area, which is called Mitte, which means middle, it's one of the districts. Just in a few steps away, you have Brandenburger Gate, you have the Reichstag, which is the parliament with a glass dome where visitors can actually go all the way to the top. There's also the Holocaust Memorial. There's also the Tiergarten, which is the largest urban park in the world, in the city, pretty impressive. And then the Unter den Linden Avenue, which leads to the Museum Island. Museum Island is a UNESCO protected area. It has 5 top world museums, and among those 5 are the 2 most famous ones. The Pergamon, which actually it is open, but the Pergamon altar will be closed until 2024 for renovations. And then the new museum, or the Egyptian Museum, which has wonderful treasures. So all those museums can be visited. There are tickets that combine all of them. Impossible to visit in one day, but it is true that maybe someone that just wants to pick and see, Nefertiti, or go to see quickly something at the Pergamon Museum, they can just buy the ticket and go from one to the other. Other areas I like to include and that are a must-see in Berlin are the Topography of Terror. This is a very comprehensive and interesting exhibition about the whole development of the history in Germany, and specifically in Berlin from 1930 all the way to after World War II. This square building you see here was recently opened. And there is an open also exhibition. This whole area was actually the former Gestapo headquarters. Actually, this building on the left with the brick wall, it was the building how it was before. So it is pretty impressive to walk there and experience and breathe just so much history. Interestingly also, that a lot of people don't know, is that this part of the wall you see here is actually the only remainder of the wall, not in the city, but as a part of the external wall. So between east and west, there were several layers, and there were 2 walls. There wasn't just one, but 2. And this is the only wall remaining that was actually the external, that touching East Berlin. So yeah, then also nearby is the checkpoint Charlie, which is the only remainder checkpoint from East-West division. Nowadays, it linked the American sector with the Russian one. So, for history, people interested in history and especially military history too, it is truly fascinating. And then also in East Berlin, we get to Alexanderplatz. This was during the division of the city. This was the heart of East Berlin. Nowadays, it's the heart of the city too. It's just, where people meet, where people go. It's near, different neighborhoods. So it's kind of the epicenter. And then it has this famous TV tower, which was built as part of the Soviet government. And it is, hard to miss just because it is obviously the tallest building, and Berlin is just so flat that you see this tower from virtually everywhere. So it is a good reference. And then the fourth area I wanted to mention is the East Side Gallery. So this is obviously in East Berlin, and this is the actual longest stretch of wall that remains, but it is the internal one. So as I mentioned before, the other one, topography, was external. This is like in the middle one, but it has become a symbol of the city. They've had along, all these years since the 90s, different artists every I think every 10 years, they've been renewing the murals and then displaying their art. So they invite, the government invites artists from different parts of the world, and then they express, how they see the world and society and the vision. So it is truly interesting to see this open air exhibition. Plus, it is actually located between two of the coolest neighborhoods of the city. So it is, in the summer especially, it's right on the river. So it's nice to go there and then go for a walk, cross the bridge, go to one of the neighborhoods, have lunch, and whatnot. And more to do in Berlin. I tell you, there's a lot of things to do. We have Potsdam. Potsdam was the royal residence. It was the summer residence of the emperors, the Kaisers, and it is outside of Berlin, about 30 to 40 minutes, doable as a day trip. Most of our clients take the train or have a private driver to take them there. Potsdam wasn't bombed as badly as Berlin during World War II. So pretty much all the palaces, the gardens, the pavilions, all of that remains intact. And it gives you a complete different glimpse of the city, because for those that have been to Berlin, I mean, Berlin is not a city where you go and then you think, oh my God, it's beautiful. It is not. It's very gritty, it's gray, it's raw and wild, and it has this, I don't know, this feeling to it that no other city has. And going to Potsdam offers you a complete different idea. With these beautiful colored streets and the palaces and the manicure gardens. So it is like day and night with Berlin. Then also very interesting for clients that want to know more about the history, all the Soviet era. Even if you don't want to learn about it, as you walk through the city, you just see all this spectacular architecture everywhere. Some of them is just truly impressive. So it's a really interesting way to get to know also these different, you actually see the different periods in the city based on all these buildings. And then from Soviet Berlin, we moved to West Berlin, which is nowadays the shopping and residential area of the city. I will say there's not that much to see in terms of, there are a couple of museums, there's a palace, but there's not as much like constant, history before your eyes as in East Berlin. But it is definitely worth an excursion. I say excursion because the city is extremely large. Berlin is like something like, I read once, 20 times Paris. It's massive. You can't really walk from place to place. So all the hotels, most of the restaurants and all the hotels are located in East Berlin. So then going to the west requires taking the subway, taking one of the trains, or having a driver. So West Berlin, as I said, now is more the shopping district. It was initially at the beginning of the century, 1920s, that's where the whole Roaring Twenties started. It was the hub for the nightlife, the cabarets, concert, theater, art, everything was just like, crazy. And a lot of people went there for the nightlife. So slowly that turned into West Berlin being completely separated from the rest of Berlin. So it was an island within an island. And once the wall fell, a lot of people from East Berlin moved to the west. So that's when it just created this residential area massively. And then the east kind of started losing people, and then a lot of the buildings were vacant. So only people that, with lower rents, a lot of artists moved to East Berlin, minorities, a lot of immigrants. And that's what actually created slowly the East Berlin we know now, which is completely gentrified at this point. And one of the, where all the galleries, the art, the graffitis, everything is now there. The nightlife is now there. So it's interesting to see how, everything changed from east to west. And then I'll finish with mention of the Jewish heritage in Berlin. There is we could feel 24 hours nonstop of Jewish heritage in the city. There's so much to see. The different memorials, the sites, exhibitions. the Jewish Museum, the synagogues. It's just truly interesting, and it gives you this glimpse into, you know, how the Jewish community developed throughout the years, and was able to maintain the presence in Berlin, even though everything that happened during, you know, the Nazi period and the Soviet time. So truly interesting as well. And I'll finish Berlin with the hotels. There are a lot of great five-star hotels, and the good thing of Berlin is that even nowadays, although the prices have gone up quite a bit, actually, since I live there, every time I go back, I'm like, wow. It is still a great value for, you know, for being a metropolis and a big capital, and it's way cheaper than any other cities in Europe. I mean, eventually I guess I'll get there, but for now, that's why, you know, going to the best hotel in the city is like, it's just a dream. So my favorite property is the Rocafort de Rome. It's perfectly located just between, you know, the area of the Museum Island, the Alexanderplatz. You can see the TV tower from the rooftop, and the Brandenburger Gate and the Reichstag Holocaust Memorial, all that. So it gives easy access to every area. It has this contemporary, really clean, but really cozy style. And it was actually a former bank. So some of the rooms really, you know, were built in some of the offices. There's also the swimming pool was actually built on the vault. So it is really cool. And then there are other two also in the Mitte, the middle district. One is the Ritz-Carlton, which is in Potsdamer Platz. It's right next to the Brandenburger Gate, but it is true that that area is a little bit more business oriented. So once the night arrives, it gets a little bit more empty. There are not that many restaurants, but the hotel is also a great option, and it offers an incredible value. And then for those that really want to splurge and be in the middle, absolutely middle, is I would say Adlon Kempinski is just the way to go. It is in the Pariser Square, which is actually the one behind me right now. So most of the suites have views facing the Brandenburger Gate. Well, actually, the you know, the upgraded suites. But it is true that it's a massive hotel. It has almost 400 rooms, and the lobby, just because where it is located, it gets a lot of traffic. A lot of people go there just to have, you know, have a look or have a tea, or it is very popular to have afternoon tea and biscuits there. So it's not for everybody. You know, if someone is wanting to just be in this more secluded, quiet hotel, the Adlon might not be the best choice, but it gives you, like, you know, the iconic landmark. And quickly mention two more cities, Dresden and Leipzig. These two are probably doable as a day trip from Berlin. I would say Leipzig more than Dresden. For Dresden, I would like if people, you know, had a little bit more of time. It is an hour and a half from Berlin, and there's a lot to see, so sometimes might feel a bit tight. Dresden works really well. For example, for travelers going from Berlin to Prague, it's right in the middle. So Berlin to Dresden is about hour and a half, 2 hours. Dresden to Prague is another 2 hours. So it works well with an overnight. And even though it was pretty much all destroyed and bombed during the war, they've rebuilt it exactly how it was before. So you still get that historical feeling. They have one of the most amazing art collections in Europe, and it's located on the Elbe River. So there are also vineyards, there are boat tours, you know, to get to go to the vineyards, and they go for tastings. It's just a really quaint city that doesn't really give the feel of a city. And then Leipzig, it's a bit smaller, but it is a musical and art center within Germany. It actually, for Germans, it's a very special place because this is where the pretty much the history that brought the fall of the wall started. Here's where people started gathering for demonstrations for days and days and days. And from here, it was brought to Berlin. And then, you know, that happened in 89, November 9th. Yes, so also in Leipzig, a lot of composers have lived or were born there. Wagner was born there. Bach and Schumann lived there for a long time. They have, very important the music scene. It's really like dear to their hearts. So they are very proud of it. And then we'll finish the tour of Germany with Hamburg. So Hamburg is actually, and unfortunately, not in many people's radar, and that makes me sad because it is an amazing city. I absolutely love it, but I guess the fact that it's in the north and a little bit more removed from big hubs like Frankfurt, Munich, Berlin, a lot of people maybe just skip it. It's actually very easily accessible from Berlin with a high-speed train. It takes about 2 hours. um, and yeah, I mean, it's just another perspective of Germany, completely different to Frankfurt, completely different to Munich, Berlin. Hamburg has always been a city on its own. It's always been a free city. It was a free city during the Roman Empire. It was free during the Hanseatic League. So it has this status, and people there are extremely proud. It's also one of the cities with the highest quality of life in Europe, and you can feel it. I mean, it's just amazing. And it has this nice blend of the actual city, a historical center, and also the sea perspective, because it's a port city with everything that means being on a port. It is not on the sea, but it's on the Elbe River. The Elbe enters the ocean, well, the North Sea, and even though it's not right on the sea, it's actually they made it work really well. So there's a lot of the cargo that leaves Germany leaves mostly from Hamburg. Yes, so plenty of things to do as well. They have like the whole port area. There's super interesting tours on the big industrial port. There's also the fisherman area, fish market. They also have a red light district, St. Pauli, that's similar to the one in Amsterdam. They also have the whole historical area, and then a few things very peculiar. It has a lot of canals, so it's a city built in the water. And fun fact, Hamburg has more bridges than London, Venice, and Amsterdam combined. So that tells you how much water they have everywhere. So also another fact, very interesting, is that the most visited museum in Germany is in Hamburg, and that is a miniature Wonderland, which is a representation of the world in miniature, and it is amazing. I went there. I spent, I don't know, I think I spent there 2 hours, and it's just like, it's just, I don't know, out of this world. I mean, needless to say that it's just the perfect place to bring kids. It's just so much fun. Yeah, so Miniature Wonderland, it's at the top of attraction in Hamburg. And another one is the Elb Philharmonic. This is the iconic building nowadays in Hamburg. It was very controversial. It took a long time to finish. Obviously, they poured in more money than they expected. So a lot of people wasn't happy about it, but it has now become one of the largest and the most advanced concert venues in the world. So music lovers, this is a absolute must. The actual concert venue, the hall, it's on the higher floor. So to access it, you have all these, windows around, and you have all the views, the panoramic views over the port and the city, and it's really, really pretty. Yeah, so this is Hamburg in terms of touring options. I could go on forever, but I won't. And then in terms of hotels, there are two properties that I absolutely love. The Fontenay is truly one of the best hotels I know in Germany. It opened a couple of years ago, or 3, I think. It is a little bit outside of the city, but about 25-minute walk along the water to the city center. It's surrounded by all these trees. It's very green, right on the lake, really modern. All the rooms are actually, they all have nice views because they all follow this, the curve from the building. They'll have massive windows, super spacious. So yeah, I mean, it's just a top choice. And then the other one that is also really nice is the Fairmont 4 Jahreszeiten. And this one is in the city, so it's also on the lakeshore, but in the actual city. And it's more, you know, on the pedestrian area, so people have more access to the busy shopping streets. And again, it's beautiful inside. So I mean, you can't really go wrong with any of these two choices. And I'll mention also Christmas markets. I know this year unfortunately won't be possible, but hopefully, fingers crossed for next year. Christmas markets take place all over the country. So wherever your clients go, they're gonna find one. The main ones are in Munich and Berlin. They have actually several, it's like 4 or 5 in each of these two cities. And then Nuremberg and Dresden they have the most traditional and famous one. So the one at the bottom, the picture at the bottom, is the one in Dresden. They actually have a massive square in the city, and it's taken over by the Christmas market. So it's really great. And something important to consider is that in Germany, the Christmas market starts with the first weekend of Advent, which is usually end of November, and then they end usually on the 24th, 26th of December. So most of them actually are already closed by the 25th. Which is not ideal. So if clients want to experience something more towards the end of the year, New Year's, or even beginning of January, you have to go to Berlin. Usually Berlin is the one that keeps at least one of the markets up until later in the month, that is in December. Yes, so everything I've talked about and everything I've mentioned can be done with private services that we'll be happy to provide, or as a self-drive, which we'll be happy to arrange, or even with train. A lot of the countryside areas are not as easy to arrange with trains, but if someone wants to just do, for example, Munich, Berlin, or Munich, Berlin, Hamburg, that can be done with the high-speed train, and it's super convenient. Even going, you know, from Germany to Zurich, to Switzerland, or to Austria, Salzburg, it's also doable by train. And yeah, for the self-drive, it's just paradise because the roads are great. Everything is really well connected. Infrastructure is just great. You can go anywhere, mountains, countryside, rivers. And it gives also that chance to explore these different areas, the vineyards, the quaint villages, go up to the mountains. So it is a really great destination for self-drive independent travelers. And then I'll finish mentioning that obviously we can combine Germany with any country in the area. As I mentioned, for example, Prague earlier, Switzerland combines really well. The whole, you know, South Black Forest, Bavaria with Switzerland, with the Tyrol in Austria. Salzburg, as I said, 20 minutes away from the border with Germany. And then even Denmark in the north, Berlin and Hamburg can connect really well with Copenhagen. There are also ferries that leave from the North Sea in Germany. For example, from Rostock, from Warnemünde, going to the different Scandinavian countries, also stops as shore excursions. So there are multiple options for everybody. Yes, and that is all. Thank you so much. I hope I wasn't too long and that you learned more than one thing. If you have any questions about anything I've talked today or any other areas, just let me know. I would love to help. You can see that I love this place, so I can just, you know, help you with anything you might have.